going on? What follows is a tale fraught with bloody battles, daring escapes, and betrayals so fantastic, you'd swear it was cooked up in a Hollywood blockbuster film.
Yeah,
Today, we're
sounds about
telling you
right.
the story of the life of the iconic Apache chief, Geronimo. But before we get started, make sure you're subscribed to the Weird History channel. Then head to the comments and let us know what other legendary figures of American history you want to hear about. For now, let's leap into some weird history. Geronimo!
Alright, we're going in.
Geronimo was born in 1829 in what is now the U.S. state of New Mexico. And although his conflict with the United States cavalry became his legacy, Geronimo's warpath was initially homegrown, brought on by a raid by the Mexican military. It was the summer of 1858 when Geronimo and his Apache band traded with the town of Casquilla, what's now known as Janos in Chihuahua, Mexico. While he and his men were away one afternoon, Mexican soldiers raided their Apache camp, stole what they could, and eliminated almost everyone. Geronimo would end up not appreciating that. The Mexican soldiers were retaliating against Geronimo for raids he conducted against nearby Mexican towns. Such raiding and subsequent counter-raiding was kind of a tit-for-tat hobby that had been going on for hundreds of years, since Spanish settlers appeared in that area in the early 1600s. And raiding wasn't an uncommon tactic.
Raiding is not an uncommon tactic.
Cattle, food, horses, and people. When Geronimo returned to find
What
that
is
the
that?
soldiers had slain his wife, mother, and 3 children, his entire family, he lost all purpose in his life, but found it shortly thereafter in the form of revenge.
Yo, subscribe, Dust. What? Yo, what's going on?
To get revenge against
Resub
the
for
Mexican
5
army.
months.
That's the kind of
What is
vengeful
up,
patience
brother?
they make Charles Bronson
How is thou,
realize.
sir?
As he assembled members
Doing
of
pretty
surrounding
well.
Apache
And thank you,
tribes
sir.
to
What's up,
avenge
Bo?
the massacred, they decided
Yeah, I'm
no
doing
one would
well.
be
How are
better
you,
to
sir?
lead the battle than Geronimo, because his loss was deemed the greatest. He led
Getting
the
a
Apache
little-
warriors into a
Getting
bloody
started a little early today,
long
huh?
battle that saw the defeat of just about every foe on the battlefield. Geronimo himself dispatched
Welcome in,
dozens
guys.
of men until he was left with nothing but his knife. He later wrote of the whirlwind experience of succeeding in battle, exacting his revenge, and almost immediately rising in stature as a wartime leader. After that battle, most of the Apaches in the war party went back to business as usual, but not Geronimo. In a pattern that would repeat dozens of times over the following years, he recruited more warriors to accompany him on some good old-fashioned raiding down in Mexico. But in this instance, when they attacked a village, he and his 2 compatriots were surprised by multiple Mexican gunmen who responded. Geronimo's companions were slain, and he was surrounded by armed...
About to chill in Diablo, but saw your live.
Geronimo
Nice,
said, nah.
Thanks
He
for
escaped
stopping in.
and
I
fled back to
appreciate the
Arizona while being
appreciate you
closely
popping in.
pursued by
Appreciate
soldiers
the
on foot. And
the sub, man.
comfort,
Awesome.
New Balance sneakers were still decades away, making
New
that
Balance
feat all
sneakers.
the more impressive.
Geronimo. We're playing the map Geronimo, so we're also listening to
The most battle damage
Brief
many people
history
experience is taking a
lesson on
dodgeball to the head.
exactly what
which
Geronimo,
usually meant you
who
could skip
Geronimo
the
is.
gym class. Well, replace dodgeball with hot
Pretty
speeding
good,
lead.
pretty good. Not too bad.
You had Geronimo's story.
Great.
Fueled by his initial success
Great.
in
Hopefully you had a good holiday as well.
Geronimo continued on
Happy
his
New Year
warpath.
to you. That's been a
Each
while, now I
subsequent
think
raid
about
on
it, yeah.
Mexican people ended in beatings and heavy losses. These defeats led to
But so far so
warriors
good.
returning
Things been going pretty well.
empty-handed, and sometimes with brand new
Hope you're enjoying the new update and all.
Geronimo had a penchant for taking abuse. In one attack, he faced death when
I feel like I'm interrupting the
Mexican soldier's
narrator.
rifle, only to have his life saved when a fellow warrior dispatched.
That's alright, I'm sure I'll hear it at least one more time before it's all over with.
That clubbing resulted in one of the 8 battle
I
wounds
do
he
have
would
to-
carry throughout his life. In another nearly successful raid,
Do
the
that.
Apaches were followed by soldiers who shot Geronimo several times. The opening volley hit him right in the face. But Geronimo either didn't notice or didn't care because, as the story goes, he got right
I was
back
stateside
up
for the
and
holidays, so
walked
I've been
away safely.
a bit of a
That
missile.
is more than
So
we can
okay,
say for the dodgeball court. Since fighting battle after battle was giving the Apache tribe diminishing returns, they decided to try living in peace, even with more settlers and military entering the region. The chief of Geronimo's tribe, Mangus, Colorado, traveled to the settlement of Apache Tejo to broker a peace deal with military officers at Fort McLean. The deal was to end raiding activities by offering food and supplies to the Apache bands who would live peacefully near the town. You've probably heard the old adage, if something seems too good to be true, it usually is. Well, Mangus, Colorado found this out the hard way when he led half the tribe to Apache Tejo. It turned out to be a double cross, resulting in the whole lot of them being slain by U.S. soldiers, although there are reports that the death of Mangus Colorado happened years earlier, a death that happened
Oh,
under
come
unlucky
on.
circumstances while jailed by the U.S. Army. The ever
That
wily
was gonna be it,
Geronimo,
but it would
when
have been
half the
good.
tribe failed to return, escaped with the rest of the tribe. And after the dust had finally settled and his people were safe again, his Apache tribe named Geronimo the tribal chief, and his reputation began to precede him, if it hadn't already. It was the summer of 1863, and the smell of fresh grass and a successful raid was in the air. The Apaches were in need of supplies.
It doesn't work just straight on. I really have to hit this. I hit the bricks every time. This does.
Nobody did anything about it. There was no meaningful resistance whatsoever. Not even a how do you do? As soon as the villagers saw the Apache coming, they hoofed it out of town, to sleep, suffering just a single casualty. With no one around to stop them, Geronimo and his warriors kicked off their shoes, feasted for a full 24 hours, and ended up gifts from their pillages. The Apaches were able to empty the town, steal several ponies, and carry the loot back home.
I might have made it directly.
In the 1870s, with all sides tiring of conflict,
48,
Geronimo and his people
47.
were able to move back into Fort Bowie,
And it's a
New
point
Mexico.
4
Upon
away.
their arrival, Geronimo spoke with a man in charge, General Oliver Otis Howard, a former Civil War officer whose treatment of Native Americans earned him respect amongst the Apache and the nickname the Christian General. Geronimo was one of those admirers. The legendary chief wrote that the general always treated the Apache as brothers, and that he, Geronimo, never had as good a friend in the U.S. as Howard. He went as far as to say that, as the purest white man in the U.S. Army, Howard's time as commander of the Apache's post was remembered fondly. But that time wouldn't last. Roughly a year later, several important Apache chiefs and warriors were invited to confer at Fort Bowie
Oh,
under the guise of
I did
peace,
that right up my
largely
boot.
to end raids being led by Apache
good.
tribal chief
I'll
Cochise.
see.
Anyone familiar with
I
the
still
Red
need like a
Wedding
full
episode of Game
second.
of Thrones already knows where we're going with this. The group was led into a tent where they were ambushed. Several were cut down by soldiers and others were captured. But if you've learned anything about Geronimo by this point, it's that you should never give him a reason for revenge. In retaliation for this treachery, Geronimo banded together 2 other Apache tribes and attacked a freight train. They captured several prisoners and offered a prisoner exchange for those taken at Fort Bowie. The U.S. Army refused, and Geronimo made good on his threat. The prisoners were eliminated, and Geronimo's crew disappeared into the mountains, further solidifying his fearsome reputation. The next few decades would take a toll on Geronimo and his Apache warriors. After being surrounded on all sides by Mexican troops in 1883,
Said, we have your people, give us ours back. They said, yeah, right. They said, okay, well, then we're gonna kill yours.
managed to sneak into the enemy encampment just in time to hear
I'm guessing that
rousing
means that they
speech from a
killed
Mexican
his 2.
general. During the speech, the general referred to Geronimo and his hated band as Red Devils. He instructed his troops to be merciless and take no
Not really a
prisoners,
good ending
be
to
they
the
man,
story.
woman, or child. This speech did not sit well with Geronimo, so he did what most of us would probably do. He took aim and fatally blasted the general where he stood. A battle erupted, and the ensuing chaos provided enough of a distraction for Geronimo and his Apache troops to escape into the nearby mountains. 30 years is a long time to do anything, especially constant fighting. Geronimo was ready to settle down with his people at Apache Pass, and about his days telling kids to get off his lawn. But once the beloved General Howard left, things between the military, the settlers, and Native Americans became tense. Geronimo himself was once jailed for 4 months for just leaving the reservation. Although, in fairness, he is the kind of person you need to keep track of. During this time, U.S. forces asked prominent chiefs and warriors to meet with them at Apache Pass to discuss future relations. Fool me once, shame on you. Fool me twice, well, you only have yourself to blame. That's why the Apache fled the reservation for fear of another trap. This did little to stop the advancing troops. After being pursued and attacked relentlessly, Geronimo and his band of 250 Apache tried to fight their way to freedom. After running for so long, with no place left to go, Geronimo ultimately surrendered to U.S. troops. This was to be the final surrender of the Apache chief's life, and he raised the white flag to Lieutenant Charles B. Gateway, who was played by Jason Patrick in the movie. We should have to surrender to the Star of Speed, too. Geronimo was toured around the country in parades and celebrations like an old Batmobile, including the second inauguration of President Theodore Roosevelt. He presided over what was left of the Apache tribe. He wrote about how much of what was promised the Apache was not delivered, attended the St. Louis World's Fair in 1904, where he marveled at riding a Ferris wheel. He was a pioneer in self-branding by selling his own autographs. He participated in Wild West shows, became a member of the Dutch Reformed Church, and when he finally slowed down, he kept house for one of his adult daughters. Oh, and he also dictated his autobiography, Geronimo's Story of His Life, which you can still get today. In February of 1909, after an evening of drinking, Geronimo was flung from his horse and lay in the rain all night before he was found. He succumbed to pneumonia a few days later. The last words of this hell-raising warrior was a request that his daughter always be looked after. So what do you think? Which facts about Geronimo's life surprised you the most? Let us know in the comments below. While you're at it, check out some of these other videos from our weird history.
Yo, I just want to know about Geronimo, that's it. Preferably just long enough to get the gold here on Geronimo. It's the only thing. I'll have to keep finding out the Geronimo videos or listen to that one again. His dumb jokes. Oh.
Can you guess how much money these people make?
I want to say you make at least $250,000.
One of them is a millionaire,
Last year, I made a little over.
and then all the way on the other side of the line,
$7 million?
broke. We brought together a panel of
49,
the smartest people
46.
to try to answer that question.
Because I'm freaked out.
What is happening?
This
Vedela kulturdan a little much, eh? Why not just do... I mean, Inner Lotus is just very safe. That's very fine. Ooh, wait, what? Oh shit. I forgot F5's a high key other places. Well, it does TOTD then, but whatever. Hey, Bid Bubble. Are you still with us? Been pretty good myself. I've been consistently getting golds. I was up hunting this one late night tonight, so I decided to stream the end result. As I'll either get it or I will admit defeat with a 5-minute video about Geronimo. I will learn all about Geronimo if I don't get this gold tonight. Maybe both. Basically, it just sounds like a gangster. That was just like, you have to keep, you have to keep getting released because you have to follow the US rules. It's like they kept just Instead of locking them up, they just kept throwing them back to the, like, hey, get your buddy here, you stay over there in the reservation. Not jail, that's home. You stay your butt at home, buddy. That's what we. We're not having no more of this. You stealing our soldiers from the trains. Oh, come on. Why can't I just hit the direct? But even, I mean, that's... I mean, that should hit the direct. I can hit this, I should be able to hit that, but I'll just hit this then. I mean, but that's still, I'm jumping over it. I gotta release to hit that now. I mean, is there an in-between speed that you can't get it? Maybe. Possible. Let's try it. Last gold of one of the last golds of the month, though. I might not get it tonight, but I'm gonna hunt it down and at least I'm gonna try to PP. While I'm hunting, I figure I might as well be streaming. And it surely ended up being true, because I wouldn't have ran into Dust and Bubble. I haven't seen their YouTube in a little bit. Dust even longer, but it's been a while. Well worth already. Shoot. There we go. What's the actual line for this look like, I wonder? Not 240, I bet. And the crap part about all that is it's still, even making it the first shot there, it's still a minute. It's still like 1.6 seconds under gold. It doesn't matter if I hit that just then, even clean one shot. Like, it doesn't matter. It just simply doesn't. But I still have to be able to do it. I still have to ablify myself to do it. Ablify, you know, that's a real word, right? Okay, that's not a real word. Decided it wasn't a real word. Retract that word, ablify. Abilify. Even if it's not a real word, it's a medicine, so we in America accept. It's 0.61 ahead on the copium. Still not making it with speed. Wow, come on. What? How much do you need? I didn't ever release. swap it? 48.57. Okay, 48.57 is okay. I can be okay with the 48.57 until I get the 48 flat. But I gotta get that. I'm really gonna have to get that. I gotta get that 1 second PB before I can be okay. What's that? I'm sorry, Dust, if you're still here, and I know that you said you're about to chill in Diablo. Oh, if even that also means maybe you're still here. But quickly, what's stateside for the holidays mean for you? You're not. What's stateside? What are you in Hawaii? People from Hawaii say that, right? And I'm guessing that just means you're visiting family and such. So you've been missing streams, and now you're not stateside. But I just don't. I'm guessing that means you're from US, but not from It's like, yeah, that would be the only way. I've only ever heard anyone say that if they're in Hawaii. Never mind. There we go, sir. I'll say be right back. Okay. Ambience and also Geronimo videos until we know.
Geronimo was born on June 16, 1829 in the state of Sonora in Mexico. He was a member of a band of Chiricahua Apache, a nation whose way of life revolved around raiding. Kind of like the Greyjoys from Game of Thrones. They didn't raise horses, they stole them. Needless to say, the Mexicans were not happy with this situation and frequently sent out troops to hunt them down. When Geronimo was 21 years old, the band of Chiricahua he belonged to traveled to the city of Janos to do some trading. While Geronimo was in town, the Mexican army attacked their camp, killing his mother, his wife, and his 3 children. He cut his hair as a sign of mourning and became a changed man, bent on revenge. Geronimo would hate the Mexicans for the rest of his life. Shortly after the massacre, Geronimo was sent by his chief, Mangus Colorado, to join the band of Chiricahua under Cochise, who was taking the fight to the Mexicans. The Mexican-American War had already happened, so the U.S. now controlled most of the Apache country in the Southwest. But Cochise's band didn't meet any Americans until 1856, a few years after the Gadsden Purchase, when the United States bought this strip of land to construct a southern transcontinental railroad. By all accounts, that first contact was positive. Cochise agreed to allow travelers and goods to pass through his territory, and for a stage station to be built. However, once Americans were roaming the mountains, they discovered a few gold mines abandoned by the Spanish, set up shop, and became a general nuisance to the Apache. You'll recall that this was a recurring theme during my larger video on Indian removal. Geronimo is the quintessential American Indian. You're gonna find that a lot of what happens to him mirrors what happened to completely different native nations throughout American history. Though, unlike those stories, he brings a lot of it onto himself. I realize that's a spicy take, but stick with me. In December 1860, a group of those miners attacked the Chiricahua, killing 4 men and capturing a dozen women and children, which they then sold into slavery. Because the Civil War hadn't happened yet, so slavery was still legal in the South, which included the New Mexico territory. Cochise ordered Geronimo to take revenge on the Americans, and he proceeded to ambush stagecoaches and wagon trains, which you'll notice aren't the miners, but okay. A few months later, Cochise was accused of stealing some cattle and kidnapping a boy, and was called into the agency for questioning. The kidnapping did actually happen, but it was carried out by a completely different group of Apaches, so Cochise had little knowledge of the event. But he and his family were arrested by the army anyway. Cochise cut a hole in the tent and managed to escape, leaving his brother,
Alright, I'm at 231, 234 FPS right now. I'm going to start to open a room and see what it is. If so, if it works well, then yes.
Cochise could negotiate for the return of his family. When that didn't work, he attacked the army camp. While he was fleeing to Mexico, he executed
Attack
the
of the Day
hostages
Hunter.
he had taken. So the army executed his brother and nephews. This is the moment that the Chiricahua Apaches shifted their anger away from the Spanish and Mexicans and towards the Americans. Combined with a few other skirmishes, this marked the beginning of the Apache Wars, which became the backdrop of just about every Western movie ever made. In July 1862, Mangus Colorado's band joined up with Cochise's band.
Billings
to
makes a
drive the
lot more
Americans out of
sense.
their
I was
territory.
really trying
The Dakota
hard
War
there.
would start in the north just a month later. For
Like,
the
I
same
had feelings
reason.
and teeth
As a
taken
result,
out.
General Carleton declared open season on any Indian that was not on the Bosque Redondo reservation. While most of the Apache eventually surrendered, Mangus Colorado's band continued to fight until he was injured
It
in
is
battle
tough.
and
It is a
attempted
tough
to
map.
surrender in January 1863. He rode in under a flag of truce, was arrested, and was brutally executed before he could even attempt to escape. General Carleton would then go on to oversee the Long Walk of the Navajo, forcing them onto a reservation.
I'm pretty
A
good.
lot of these stories are interconnected, and a lot of these people pop up elsewhere. Following Mangus's death, Victorio became the leader of his band and continued the joint guerrilla campaign with Cochise. By 1870, Cochise was the most well-known Indian war chief to most Americans. He was blamed for any raid
Can you
that
put
took
this on a
place
loop? Can I just loop
even
this
if he
one?
was hundreds of miles away at the time.
It's 16 minutes
Together,
long. It should
they
be
kept
fine.
the
I'll
attacks
have it by
coming
then,
until
hopefully.
signing a peace treaty, which included a reservation.
Alright, so at
on their
170
ancestral
FPS, let's see, let's
Cochise
put that
died
down.
of unknown illness in 1874.
200, okay, we have 200
2 years
FPS. Let's see
later,
this.
The Bureau of Indian Affairs closed the reservation promised to the Chiricahua and moved them to the agency at San Carlos. Geronimo initially agreed to move, but slipped away in the night with 700 Apache and resumed raiding in Mexico. They would rustle entire herds of cattle or horses and then sell them to another rancho so they could use the cash to buy more guns and ammunition. Rinse and repeat. Geronimo was eventually captured by the Indian agent and his Apache police in 1877 and taken to San Carlos. Victorio's band surrendered shortly afterwards. When a new agent arrived at the San Carlos reservation in July, he freed Geronimo and his men, apparently not realizing who this guy would become. Victorio's band would leave and return to the reservation several times over the next 2 years. At one point, Victorio was falsely accused of stealing a horse and was arrested. He escaped, vowed that he would never again put himself at the mercy of white men, and joined up with Geronimo. He became convinced that he was marked for death and that the only way for the Apache to survive was to fight. Victorio's war began in September 1879. The 200
Sorry about your map
Chiricahua
choice, Bubble.
ambush
Welcome, man.
cavalry and kill settlers in Texas and New Mexico, then hide on the other side of the border. Then they would raid Mexican ranches, steal their horses, and hide on the American side of the border. You can only pull that trick so many times before the two countries realize that they just need to work together. So on October 14th, 1880, that's exactly what the Mexicans and Americans did. They pinned down the Chiricahua in the Tres Castillo Hills, killed 78, including Victorio, and took 68 women and children captive. Having lost every experienced leader and most of his warriors, Geronimo turned himself into the San Carlos reservation a few months later, in January 1881. He was treated just like every other Apache and was expected to work and farm, which he absolutely hated. During that summer, a medicine man named the Dreamer began preaching a rejection of white influence and a return to the Apache way of life. We've also seen this before, and it rarely works out for the prophet. The government attempted to arrest him, a few Apache tried to intervene, and a shootout began. The Dreamer and 17 Chiricahua were killed. This inspired Geronimo and 72 of his fellow Chiricahua to escape the reservation and continue the fight. Sheriff Wyatt Earp was sent to catch him and was unsuccessful. At this
Wyatt
point
Earp.
in history, the Chiricahua were the only American Indians still fighting anywhere in the country. Sitting Bull surrendered 2 months earlier. During the next
Okay, Geronimo was so Geronimo was
band
the
sneaked
real like
back onto the reservation to abduct 400 Apache
he's back in
and force them
the
to
day
join
of
resistance. Some were even taken at gunpoint. They were pursued by members of the
young
10th
guns and
Cavalry,
stuff.
also known as the Buffalo Soldiers. The Apache called them that because of their hair. Geronimo's abducted conscripts were met by Mexican soldiers on the other side of the border. Of the 400 Chiricahua in the group, 78 were killed, mostly women and children. Wanting to end the Indian Wars once and for all, the the Army brought in General Crook, who had just defeated the Lakota during Red Cloud's War. He took a much more sympathetic approach to the Apache. He allowed them to live anywhere on the reservation they pleased, not just at the agency. He kicked out all of the white miners and gave most of the work contracts to the Chiricahua. But he also made an agreement with Mexico
mining like a niner.
could cross the border in pursuit of hostile Apache.
Oh, mining.
And then he waited.
Yeah,
It wasn't
that
until
all kind
March
of matches up.
year that Geronimo attacked a mining camp near Tombstone, Arizona, giving Crook the legal justification to cross into Mexico. 2 months later, Geronimo was raiding some Mexican ranches, and while he was away, Crook's forces surrounded and captured his stronghold. Geronimo surrendered, and his band was taken back to the reservation in waves of a few hundred each, with the final group arriving in February 1884. With the Indian Wars over, the newspapers had a field day, blaming Geronimo for any raid or atrocity that was as yet unsolved. Just over a year later, discontented with nothing to do but drink and gamble on the reservation, Geronimo escaped and fled to Mexico, along with 34 men and 100 women and children. As with every previous escape attempt, they were again pursued by the cavalry. Geronimo's band ran 80 to 90 miles a day on foot, slaughtering anyone they encountered so that nobody could report their location, including friendly ranching families who hosted them and their children. This is another one of those moments where, like, bruh, they're super gonna come after you now. You think they're just gonna let you go? And you've left a convenient trail of dead bodies to follow. The newspapers went nuts. The last Indian war chief has escaped and nobody is safe. So the army ordered General Crook to kill the fugitives or accept nothing less than unconditional surrender. And this time, he would have the help of several hundred Apache who volunteered as scouts. Crook's forces caught up to Geronimo in March 1886, when he surrendered again and was informed that he and his band would be taken to prison in Florida for 2 years before they could return to the San Carlos reservation. Geronimo accepted those terms, but then slipped away in the night with 40 of his warriors. Bruh, you can't keep surrendering and escaping like that. You're making things so much worse for yourself. Crook was immediately relieved of duty and replaced by General Nelson A. Miles, who had 5,000 troops under his command, which was a quarter of the U.S. Army at the time. Together with detachments from the Mexican Army, over 10,000 soldiers were now hunting 36 Chiricahua Apache. Even with those odds, it took months to track him down, and he surrendered for the last time on September 4th, 1886, finally marking the end of the Indian Wars. The only battle to take place after this was Wounded Knee, which was much more of a massacre than it was a battle. Geronimo and his band, together with all of the Chiricahua Apache, even the scouts that helped track them down,
all these first places.
taken to prison in Fort Marion, Florida. The Apache
Oh, you already got a 57? Go.
and hundreds of them died from mosquito-borne diseases. Prior to their arrival, Fort
That's
Marion
really
was led by
okay.
Richard Pratt, who developed
I thought that's a 47.
program to rehabilitate, or in this case, culturally assimilate, the Indian prisoners of war. It was so successful that he then opened up the Carlisle
10 more
Industrial
seconds to
School
go.
in Pennsylvania, the first Indian boarding school. So when Geronimo's band of Chiricahua arrived in Florida and were put to work, hundreds of their children were immediately taken from them and sent to Carlisle as some of its first pupils. Dozens of those children would eventually die from tuberculosis and other diseases. When the Chiricahua's 2-year prison sentence was over, Arizona refused to allow them to return, so they were shipped to a fort in Arkansas, where another quarter of them died from disease. The Kiowa and Comanche eventually invited the Chiricahua to live with them on their reservation in Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which I've made a whole separate video about. His band of Chiricahua Apache lived as prisoners of war, while Geronimo became a celebrity, attending expositions all over the country where people could pay for a tintype selfie with the worst Indian who ever lived. Since he was still technically a prisoner, he was escorted by soldiers everywhere he went. While Sitting Bull was recruited by the famous Buffalo Bill Cody to perform in his Wild West show, Geronimo was also hired as a show Indian, but not for Buffalo Bill. Instead, he was hired by Pawnee Bill, which was more like the R.C. Cola of Wild West shows. It's during this time that Geronimo was transformed from a villain into an American hero. He kept fighting against impossible odds until the bitter end, a true underdog story.
What is the actual line for this?
Western novels and eventually film, arguably making Geronimo the most famous American Indian in history. In
Can't be that.
1985,
This can't
he
be that.
participated in a much more dignified performance.
4981?
Roosevelt's inaugural procession down Pennsylvania Avenue in full war regalia. This was supposed to show that the Americans and Indians had buried the hatchet forever, which I'm sure was a nice fantasy at the time. Back in Oklahoma a few years later, Geronimo was thrown from his horse and was exposed to freezing temperatures all night before he was found. He died 6 days later, still technically a prisoner of war, and was buried at Fort Sill, where he remains to this day. In 1939, a bunch of paratroopers from the 1st of the 509th Parachute Infantry Regiment saw the movie Geronimo and decided to start yelling his name as they jumped out of a plane, beginning a long American military tradition of appropriating native culture and language. They started giving themselves mohawk haircuts a few years later. I realize that sounds like a really lame origin story, but that's usually how it works. Hollywood inspires the military much more often than the other way around. My platoon in Iraq was named the Jokers because The Dark Knight just came out. Yelling Geronimo's name as an exclamation was spread to the civilian population when movies about World War II started coming out. Speaking of which, do any of you play StarCraft?
Geronimo!
The raid that killed Osama bin Laden in 2011 was called Operation Geronimo, which brought the debate over the use of his name back to the surface. But among those who defend his name and legacy, you won't find very many Chiricahua Apache. Because of his repeated raids and escapes, his entire band was collectively punished and never allowed to return home. They blame him for their troubles and do not see him as a hero. They were held as prisoners of war until 1913, when the 261 remaining Chiricahua Apache were finally set free. They were the last American Indians to be relocated to Oklahoma, and they were eventually recognized as the Fort Sill Apache tribe. They currently have 650 enrolled members. This video is a special Nebula exclusive follow-up to my larger video on Indian removal. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already. If you'd like to become an enrolled member of the Knowing Better band, head on over to patreon.com/knowingbetter, or for a one-time donation, paypal.me/knowingbetter. Don't forget to colonize that subscribe button or the join button if you want to fully assimilate. Check out the merch at knowingbetter.tv, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and join us on the subreddit. Geronimo was born on June 16, 1829 in the state of Sonora in Mexico. He was a member of a band of Chiricahua Apache, a nation whose way of life revolved around raiding. Kind of like the Greyjoys.
Do you have a goal here, do you think?
They didn't raise horses, they stole them. Needless to say, the Mexicans were not happy with this situation and frequently sent out troops to hunt them down. When Geronimo was 21 years old, the band of Chiricahua he belonged to traveled to the city of Janos to do some trading. While Geronimo was in town, the Mexican army attacked their camp, killing his mother, his wife, and his 3 children. He cut his hair as a sign of mourning and became a changed man, bent on revenge. Geronimo would hate the Mexicans for the rest of his life.
Get in there. A bit of history to serve us, Sir Jim. As we were playing the map,
massacre, Geronimo was sent by his chief, Mangus Colorado, to join the band
we're
of
listening
Chiricahua
to
Cochise,
that
was
and
taking the fight to the Mexicans. The Mexican-American War had already
so there's two
happened,
things.
So the U.S. now controlled most of the Apache country.
I'm listening to the quintessential American Indian Knowing Better. It's just a Knowing Better thing about Geronimo. And I'm listening to a Lower Chakras Residence. Just full night opening healing chakra music just for background residence. Yeah.
In the Southwest. But Cochise's band didn't meet any Americans until 1856, a few years after the Gadsden Purchase, when the United States bought this strip of land to construct a southern.
This is how we learn. We're gonna listen to this 3 times before I get this gold, so don't worry, you have time.
Cochise agreed to allow travelers and goods to pass through his territory and for a stage station to be built. However, once Americans were roaming the mountains, they discovered a few gold mines abandoned by the Spanish, set up shop, and became a general nuisance to the Apache. You'll recall that this was a recurring theme during my larger video on Indian removal. Geronimo is the quintessential American Indian. You're going to find that a lot of what happens to him mirrors what happened to completely different native nations throughout American history. Though, unlike those stories, he brings a lot of it onto himself. I realize that's a spicy take, but stick with me. In December 1860, a group of those miners attacked the Chiricahua, killing 4 men and capturing a dozen women and children, which they then sold into slavery. Because the Civil War hadn't happened yet, so slavery was still legal in the South, which included the New Mexico territory. Cochise ordered Geronimo to take revenge on the Americans, and he proceeded to ambush stagecoaches and wagon trains, which you'll notice aren't the miners, but okay. A few months later, Cochise was accused of stealing some cattle and kidnapping a boy, and was called into the agency for questioning. The kidnapping did actually happen, but it was carried out by a completely different group of Apaches, so Cochise had little knowledge of the event. But he and his family were arrested by the army anyway. Cochise cut a hole in the tent and managed to escape, leaving his brother, nephews, wife, and children behind. The Chiricahua then attacked a wagon train, killing most, but taking a few prisoners so Cochise could negotiate for the return of his family. When that didn't work, he attacked the army. While he was fleeing to Mexico,
That's 2 things.
He executed the hostages he had taken. So the army executed his brother and nephews. This is the moment that the Chiricahua Apache shifted their anger away from the Spanish and Mexicans and towards the Americans.
Well,
Combined with a few other
he executed them because he said, we stole a bunch of people out of a train, give us our people back, and they said no, and they said, okay, well, we're gonna kill them then, and they said, okay, well, we're gonna kill them then, and then they said, oh, well. It's a weird, I'm gonna get gold? Cool, have fun, dude, good luck.
Just a month later for the same reason. As a result, General Carleton declared open season on any Indian that was not on the Bosque Redondo
4902?
While most of the Apache
At least
eventually
0.5. I can get a
Angus
48
Colorado's band
or,
continued
you
to
know,
fight until he was
48
injured
fours.
in battle and attempted to surrender in January 1863.
Still not
He
gold.
remained under a flag of truce, was arrested, and was brutally executed before he could even attempt to escape. General Carleton would then go on to oversee the Long Walk of the Navajo, forcing them onto a reservation. A lot of these stories are interconnected, and a lot of these people pop up elsewhere. Following Mangus's death, Victorio became the leader of his band and continued the joint guerrilla campaign with Cochise. By 1870, Cochise was the most well-known Indian war chief to most Americans. He was blamed for any raid that took place anywhere, even if he was hundreds of miles away at the time. Together, they kept the attacks coming until signing a peace treaty, which included a reservation on their ancestral lands. Cochise died of an unknown illness in 1874, and 2 years later, the Bureau of Indian Affairs closed the reservation promised to the Chiricahua.
0.3 only though.
Agency at San Carlos. Geronimo initially agreed to move, but slipped
I don't believe I do.
with 700 Apache
Couple, no.
who resumed raiding in Mexico. They would rustle entire herds of cattle or horses and then sell them to another rancher so they could use the cash to buy more guns and ammunition, rinse and repeat. Geronimo was eventually captured by the Indian agent and his Apache police in 1877 and taken to San Carlos. Victorio's band surrendered shortly afterwards. When a new agent arrived at the San Carlos reservation in July, he freed Geronimo and his men, apparently not realizing who this guy would become. Victorio's band would leave and return to the reservation several times over the next 2 years. At one point, Victorio was falsely accused of stealing a horse and was arrested. He escaped, vowed that he would never again put himself at the mercy of white men, and joined up with Geronimo. He became convinced that he was marked for death and that the only way for the Apache to survive was to fight. Victorio's war began in September 1879. The 200 Chiricahua under his command ambush cavalry and kill settlers in Texas and New Mexico, then hide on the other side of the border. Then they would raid Mexican ranches, steal their horses, and hide on the American side of the border. You can only pull that trick so many times before the two countries realize that they just need to work together. So on October 14th, 1880, that's exactly what the Mexicans and Americans did. They pinned down the Chiricahua in the Tres Castillo Hills, killed 78, including Victorio, and took 68 women and children captive. Having lost every experienced leader and most of his warriors, Geronimo turned himself into the San Carlos Reservation a few months later, in January 1881. He was treated just like every other Apache and was expected to work and farm, which he absolutely hated. During that summer, a medicine man named the Dreamer
It's like asking
began preaching a rejection of white influence and a return to
Al
the Apache
Capone
way
to
of life.
fucking
We've also seen this before.
take a job at the
Rarely
bowling
works out
alley,
for
yeah.
profit. The government attempted to arrest him, a few Apache tried to intervene, and a shootout began. The Dreamer and 17 Chiricahua were killed. This inspired Geronimo
Yo,
and
Black Red
72
Ceiling.
of his fellow Chiricahua
Yeah,
to
we're in the-
escape the reservation and continue the fight. Sheriff Wyatt Earp was sent to catch him.
Sheriff Wyatt Earp.
At this point in history, the Chiricahua were the only American Indians still fighting anywhere in the
Yeah,
country.
this is like regulator shit. This is like Young Guns type stuff. Wyatt Earp and
Spring, Geronimo and his band sneaked back onto the reservation to abduct 400 Apache and force them to join the resistance.
come on, give me a clean jump for once.
By members of the 10th Cavalry, also known as the Buffalo Soldiers. The Apache
The
called them
Buffalo
their
Soldier. Apache called them that because of their hair as the 10th Cavalry.
Mexican soldiers on the
Never knew
other side
that.
of the border. Of the 400 Chiricahua in the group, 78 were killed, mostly women and children. Wanting to end the Indian Wars once and for all, the army brought in General Crook, who had just defeated the Lakota during Red Cloud's War. He took a much more sympathetic approach to
49-14
the
there.
Apache. He allowed them to live
Good
anywhere on
morning,
the reservation they pleased,
Slim.
not just at the
Welcome
agency.
in as well.
He kicked out all of the white
My friend, this risky fit is hard. You definitely can get gold with the safe pin. It's only slightly slower, but much easier.
Mexico, that either country
Do you think I can get gold with the safe pin? I guess. Is it possible? I would
It
hope so.
wasn't until March of the next year that Geronimo attacked a mining camp near Tombstone, Arizona, giving Crook
Excuse me,
no justification for
pardon my
crossing into Mexico.
French, as we say
10 months
here.
later, Geronimo was raiding some Mexican
Because I guess French people are dirty, dirty, disgusting, mouth, like, vulgar people.
Geronimo surrendered and his band was taken back to the reservation in waves of a few hundred each, with the final group arriving in
I don't know.
February 1884. With
What's
the
up,
Indian
Zenith?
Wars
Zenith?
over,
I don't know why. I think I call you Zenith just because
blaming Geronimo for
Phenom calls you Zenith. But is it one Zenith or two Zenith?
Discontented with nothing to do but drink and
Or
gamble,
three, doesn't matter, just call me whatever.
Geronimo escaped and fled to Mexico.
Or one actually, but three.
And 100 women and children. As with every previous
Or whatever.
escape attempt, they were again
That would be
pursued by the
four.
cavalry. Geronimo's band ran 80 to 90 miles a day on foot, slaughtering anyone they encountered so that nobody could report their location, including friendly ranching families who hosted them and their children. This is another one of those moments where, like, bruh, they're super gonna come after you now. You think they're just gonna let you go?
Any
And
race club?
You've left a convenient trail of dead bodies to follow. The newspapers went nuts. The last
NA
Indian
race
war chief
club.
has escaped and nobody is safe. So
On
army
the Twitch side, you can do exclamation mark join, but it's not going to work on the
Unless an
YouTube side.
unconditional surrender. And this time, he would have the help of several hundred Apache.
But you can find it
volunteered as
probably now
scouts.
even in the
Crook's
arcade
forces
tab
told
at this point because people are just joining in.
1886.
There's been like 4 people on, but they all
Again,
left
he was
actually.
informed that he and his band would be
You're from
taken to
Iceland?
prison in Florida for
You wouldn't
2
know the
years
correct
before
pronunciation.
he
Oh,
returned to
okay.
the San Carlos
Well,
Reservation.
if it depends.
Geronimo
Okay, let me ask you this:
accepted terms,
Is it
but then
Zenith
slipped
the
away
same
the
as
night
if?
with 40 of his warriors. Bruh, you can't keep surrendering and
I think the
escaping
correct
like
way
that.
would
You're
be
making things so much worse for yourself.
Zenith
Crook was
with one
immediately
end?
relieved of
I mean,
duty and replaced
yeah,
by General
that's the way it's.
Nelson A. Miles.
He's not
He
talking
had
about how it's spelled. He's talking about how it's
5,000
pronounced.
troops, which was a
So
quarter
I
of the
guess
US
he
Army.
doesn't know how to pronounce it, but I'll just pronounce it however I like.
Mexican army,
But I mean, Zenith would be your name if it's a name that's what people call you. That's how you pronounce it. You know, Zenith would be the word that we use when you're speaking of like starlight or something about the star, like the high point of a star.
Finally marking the end of the
I guess. I think that I don't know what Zenith even means, but I know that they use it like there was a television brand here, Zenith. But I still see Zenith for whatever reason because it's like Kenneth, but that's not even how you spell Kenneth. So I don't know why I say Zenith. It's just, but just curious if you had a preference.
And hundreds of them died died from mosquito-borne diseases. Prior to their arrival, Fort
Oh,
Marion was
don't worry,
run
we'll
by
blow.
Richard Pratt,
It'll
who developed an education program to
Are you?
rehabilitate
It doesn't seem like you are,
this
sir.
is culturally
We're in the
Indian
back of the day hunt room.
It was so successful that he then opened up the Carlisle Industrial School in
Let me show you where we're
Pennsylvania, the first Indian boarding school. So when Geronimo's band of Chiricahua arrived in Florida and were put to work,
I'll even move it up
hundreds
a
of
little
their
bit.
children
There you go.
were immediately taken from them and sent to Carlisle
There
as
you
some of
go.
its
Yep,
first
be there now.
inmates. Dozens of those children would eventually die from tuberculosis and other diseases. When the Chiricahua's 2-year prison
Welcome in,
sentence
sir.
was
We're gonna get some
over,
hunting in.
Arizona refused to allow them to return. So they were shipped to a fort in Arkansas, where another quarter of them died from disease. The Kiowa and Comanche eventually invited the Chiricahua to live with them on their reservation at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which I've made a whole separate video about. His band of Chiricahua Apache
then
lived as
another guy.
prisoners of war, while Geronimo
Saigar.
became a celebrity.
That guy Jolly, I
attending
guess that's you, Blackguard?
expeditions all
Let's
over the
go.
country where people could pay for a tin-type selfie with the worst Indian who ever lived. Since he was
That
still
looks
technically
quite
a prisoner, he was
New
escorted by
Zealandish to me.
soldiers everywhere he went. While Sitting Bull was recruited by the famous Buffalo Bill Cody to perform in his Wild West show, Geronimo was also
That's two big
hired as a
names he
show
dropped.
Indian,
Buffalo
but
Bill
not
and
for Buffalo Bill. Instead, he was hired by Pawnee Bill, which was more like the R.C. Cola of Wild West shows. It's during this time that Geronimo was transformed from a villain into an American hero.
Ooh, that was a hot turn.
Impossible odds until the bitter
Line.
end. A true underdog story. Legends about him were spread through Western novels and eventually film, arguably making Geronimo the most famous American Indian in history. In 1905,
we're sure that gold is possible up the long way, though? I don't feel like it is for me. I'm still like a second and a half back, bro. Like, how are you gonna tell me I can get gold?
This was supposed to show that the Americans and Indians had buried the hatchet forever, which I'm sure was a nice fantasy at the time. Back in Oklahoma,
I just put it in Google Translate and okay, thank you. Zenith, yes.
Freezing temperatures all night before
Zenith is how you would say it if you just put Zenith in. But unless it was a name that you had, it was a specific way to pronounce it for your, you know, in your dialect, then I would say Zenith is the word. For whatever reason, though, I just always see Zenith.
Beginning a long American military tradition of appropriating native culture and language.
Because while we're appropriating native culture and language, Geronimo is the name of this track by Taco TM. And so we're going to actually listen to the origin story of where Geronimo came from and learn a little something. You got a problem with that,
My
buddy?
platoon in Iraq was named the Jokers because The Dark Knight just came out. Yelling.
Alright, we'll go back.
Geronimo was born on
They were just going to tell you why Geronimo happened, why it was called that, yelling. We'll tell you that. We'll tell you why they yelled it. When people jumping out of it.
Transformed from a villain into an American hero. He kept fighting against impossible odds until the bitter end. A true underdog story.
Alright, you know what? We'll just start over. You guys have you've forced my hand.
On June 16,
Listen to it all.
1829 in the state of Sonora in Mexico. He was a member of a band of Chiricahua Apache, a nation whose way of life revolved around raiding. Kind of like the Greyjoys from Game of Thrones. They didn't raise horses, they stole them. Needless to say, the Mexicans were not happy with this situation and frequently sent out troops to hunt them down. When Geronimo was 21 years old, the band of Chiricahua he belonged to traveled to the city of Janos to do some trading. While Geronimo was in town, the Mexican army attacked.
There's 100% chance he's gonna say Geronimo during my Top Notch Entertainment, yeah. And it's like more likely it's gonna be my clip that I post to YouTube too. When I get to see this golden medal. Will be maybe a great fact, maybe a terrible fact, but it's gonna likely say the word Geronimo because he says it at least like 3 times a minute.
Shortly after the massacre, Geronimo was sent by his chief, Mangus Colorado, to join the band of Chiricahua under Cochise, who was taking the fight to the Mexicans. The Mexican-American War had already happened, so the U.S. now controlled most of the Apache country in the Southwest. But Cochise's band didn't meet any Americans until 1856, a few years after the Gadsden Purchase, when the United States bought this strip of land to construct a southern transcontinental railroad. By By all accounts, that first contact was positive. Cochise agreed to allow travelers and goods to pass
the
through his
49
territory
what?
and for a stage
That's still too late. It's still too late for
However,
gold.
once Americans were roaming the mountains,
And I'll show you why. First of all, let's see that. Let's see about that time.
and became a general nuisance to the Apache. You'll recall that this was a recurring.
This is about 48.6, right? We'll say 48.6. And then I want to take the safe bin and see what it is.
Here's what happened to completely different native nations throughout American history.
At this point, I still need 0.6 off, so it's not even good.
I realize that's a spicy take, but stick with me. In December 1860, a group of those miners attacked the Chiricahua,
Later, bro. Have a good night.
killing 4 men and capturing a dozen women and children, which they then sold into slavery. Because the Civil War hadn't happened yet, so slavery was still legal in the South, which included the New Mexico territory. Cochise ordered Geronimo to take revenge on the Americans, and he proceeded to ambush stagecoaches and wagon trains, which you'll notice aren't the miners, but
49.56.
okay. A few
So
months
40, it's a
later,
full
Cochise
second,
was
dude.
accused
It's a
of
full
stealing some
second.
cattle
I'm
and
not
kidnapping
getting
a boy,
a
and was called
47
into for
time.
questioning. The kidnapping did
I
actually
don't think.
happen,
I mean, I guess I
but it was
could.
carried out
There's AT-45 out there.
So Cochise had little knowledge of the event, but he and his family were arrested.
But I don't think I'm getting a 47 anytime soon. Like,
in the tent and managed to escape, leaving his brother, nephews, wife, and
I don't know. I think that's a raw take for someone that doesn't know my skill level.
killing most, but taking a few
But
prisoners
it is also tech map.
for the return of his family. When that didn't work, he attacked the army camp. While he was fleeing to Mexico, he executed the hostages he had taken. So the army executed his brother and nephews. This is the moment that the Chiricahua Apache shifted their anger away from the Spanish and Mexicans and towards the Americans. Combined with a few other skirmishes, this marked the beginning of the Apache Wars, which became the backdrop of just about every Western movie ever made. In July 1862, Mangus Colorado's band.
if you have advice on how to do it, but don't just say don't try it. That doesn't make any sense at all.
Would start in the north just a month later for the same reason.
Because I'm making the risky fin and still being second behind means I pretty much have to do it all still and just do it better.
The Apache eventually surrendered.
And there's no reason not to if it's a full second faster. Like what? That's just like a full second unless I have to shave off the rest of the path.
Brutally executed before he could even attempt to escape. General Carleton
You know,
would then go
in my
on to
opinion.
oversee the long walk of the Navajo, forcing them onto a reservation. A lot of these stories are interconnected, and a lot of these people pop up elsewhere. Following Mangus's death, Victorio became the leader of his band and continued the joint guerrilla campaign with Cochise. By 1870, Cochise was the most well-known Indian war chief to most Americans. He was blamed for any raid that took place anywhere.
I feel like you just wanted to tell us your PB, but that's what's up. You're close to AT. Why don't you get in here and get AT?
Attacks coming until signing a peace treaty.
And there's no way you're getting that without risky finish. So I don't know why you're telling me not to do it.
1874, and 2 years later, the Bureau of Indian Affairs closed the reservation promised to the Chiricahua and moved them to the agency in San Carlos. Geronimo initially agreed to move, but slipped away in the night with 700 Apache and resumed raiding in Mexico. They would rustle entire herds of cattle or horses and then sell them to another rancher so they could use the cash to buy more guns and ammunition. Rinse and repeat. Geronimo was eventually captured by the Indian agent and his Apache police in 1877 and taken to San Carlos. Victorio's band surrendered shortly afterwards. When a new agent arrived at the San Carlos reservation in July, he freed Geronimo and his men, apparently not realizing who this guy would become. Victorio's band would leave and return to the reservation several times over the next 2 years. At one point, Victorio was falsely accused of stealing a horse and was arrested. He escaped, vowed that he would never again put himself at the mercy of white men, and joined up with Geronimo. He became convinced that he was marked for death and that the only way for the Apache to survive was to fight. Victorio's war began in September 1879. The 200 Chiricahua under his command would ambush cavalry and kill settlers in Texas and New Mexico, then hide on the other side of the border. Then
Welcome to the party.
Mexican ranches, steal their horses, and hide on the American side of the border. You can only pull that trick so many times before the two countries realize
If you'd like, I'll observe you and you can show me
so on October 14th,
gold medal strat,
That's exactly what
with
the Mexicans in
no
America
risky
did.
fin.
They pinned down the Chiricahua in the Tres Castillo Hills, killed 78, including Victoria.
And then if you want, you can come over to my house. You can put it on my account. You can roll for just a couple minutes on my account, meaning play my.
He was treated just like every other Apache and was expected
Oof.
to work
Go, 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 go.
which he
Just long enough to get this risky.
During that summer,
I stupid hate this red food. It's so bad.
began preaching a rejection of white influence and a return to the Apache way of life. We've also seen
I mean, the only way I've hit it so far is off of the bricks, like off of the castle blocks.
The Dreamer and 17 Chiricahua.
Like I can do it this way.
Inspired Geronimo and 72 of his fellow Chiricahua to escape the reservation and continue the fight. Sheriff Wyatt Earp was sent to catch him and was unsuccessful. At this point in history, the
Wyatt Earp couldn't catch Geronimo.
Indians still fighting anywhere in the country. Sitting Bull surrendered 2 months earlier. During the next
Well,
spring,
that doesn't mean anything. He just was the sheriff around the time. They always exaggerate stuff.
Apache and forced them to join the resistance. Some were even taken at gunpoint. They were pursued by members of the 10th Cavalry.
It's not like he was like running behind him and didn't catch him. It was like,
The Apache called them
yeah,
because of their
nobody caught him. He just has to be one of the ones that was asked.
Mexican soldiers
I don't know why I'm still
on
doing
the
this.
side of the border. Of the 400 Chiricahua in the group, 78 were killed, mostly women and children. Wanting to end the Indian Wars once and for all, the Army
Like jump as
brought
straight as
General
possible
Crook
off the ramp.
marches
Okay,
to
I'll try that.
Lakota
Thank you.
during Red Cloud's War.
And I
It
know
took
it's a
much
gear
more
thing. I could tell
approach to
that I'm gonna have to have a full gear gearing and, you know, screaming good engine.
He kicked out all of the white miners and gave most of the work contracts to
Also
the
gonna put
Chiricahua.
this,
But he also made an agreement with Mexico that either
video
country
that
could cross
down
the
for
border into
FPS.
hostile Apache. And then he waited. It wasn't until
That's
March
better.
of the next year that Geronimo attacked a mining camp near Tombstone, Arizona, giving Crook the legal justification to cross into Mexico. 2 months later, Geronimo was raiding some Mexican ranches, and while he was away, Crook's forces surrounded and captured his stronghold. Geronimo surrendered, and his band was taken back to the reservation in waves of a few hundred each, with the final group arriving in February 1884. With the Indian Wars over, the newspapers had a field day, blaming Geronimo for any raid or atrocity that was as yet unsolved. Just over a year later, discontented with nothing to do but drink and gamble on the reservation, Geronimo escaped and fled to Mexico, along with 34 men and 100 women and children. As with every previous escape attempt, they were again pursued by the cavalry. Geronimo's band ran 80 to 90 miles a day on foot, slaughtering anyone they encountered so that nobody could remove
What is this all of a sudden?
including friendly ranching families who hosted them and their children. This is another one of those moments where, like, bruh, they're super gonna come after you now. You think they're just gonna let you go? And you've left a convenient trail of dead bodies to follow. The newspapers went nuts. The last Indian war chief has escaped and nobody is safe. So the army ordered General Crook to
4870.
kill the fugitives or accept nothing less than unconditional surrender. And this time, he would have the help of several hundred Apache who volunteered as scouts. Crook's forces caught up to Geronimo in March 1886, when he surrendered again and was informed that he and his band would be taken to prison in Florida for 2 years before they could return to the San Carlos reservation. Geronimo accepted those terms, but then slipped away in the night with 40 of his warriors. Bruh, you can't keep surrendering and escaping like that. You're making things so much worse for yourself. Crook was immediately relieved of duty and replaced by General Nelson A. Miles, who had 5,000 troops under his command, which was a quarter of the U.S. Army at the time. Together with detachments from the Mexican Army, over 10,000 soldiers were now hunting 36 Chiricahua Apache. Even with those odds, it took months to track him down, and he surrendered for the last time on September 4th, 1886, finally marking the end of the Indian Wars. The only battle to take place after this was Wounded Knee, which was much more of a massacre than it was a battle. Geronimo and his band, together with all of the Chiricahua Apache, even the scouts that helped track him down, were loaded onto a train and taken to prison in Fort Marion, Florida. The Apache weren't accustomed to the tropical climate, and hundreds of them died from mosquito-borne diseases. Prior to their arrival, Fort Marion was run by Richard Pratt, who developed an education program to rehabilitate, or in this case culturally assimilate, the Indian prisoners of war. It was so successful that he then opened up the Carlisle Industrial School in Pennsylvania, the first Indian boarding school. So when Geronimo's band of Chiricahua arrived in Florida and put to work, hundreds of their children were immediately taken from them and sent to Carlisle as some of its first pupils. Dozens of those children would eventually die from tuberculosis and other diseases. When the Chiricahua's 2-year prison sentence was over, Arizona refused to allow them to return, so they were shipped to a fort in Arkansas, where another quarter of them died from disease. The Kiowa and Comanche eventually invited the Chiricahua to live with them on their reservation at Fort Sill, Oklahoma, which I've made a whole separate video about. His band of Chiricahua Apache lived as prisoners of war, while Geronimo became a celebrity, attending expositions all over the country where people could pay for a tin-type selfie with the worst Indian who ever lived. Since he was still technically a prisoner, he was escorted by soldiers everywhere he went. While Sitting Bull was recruited by the famous Buffalo Bill Cody to perform in his Wild West show,
I mean, I have a 49, but still, that's not what I need, so I don't know that's what I need. I don't know why I ran my Rookie B.
Which was more like the RC Cola of Wild West shows. It's during this time
What's the point of being in the room? I don't know. Bubble. Usually Bubble makes me derails me for 5 minutes, do nothing and at all, and then just goes to do something else.
And eventually film, arguably making Geronimo the most famous American Indian in history. In 1905, he participated in a much more dignified performance when he led Teddy Roosevelt's inaugural procession down Pennsylvania Avenue in full war regalia. This was supposed to show that the Americans and Indians had buried the hatchet forever, which I'm sure was a nice fantasy at the time. Back in Oklahoma a few years later, Geronimo was thrown from his horse and was exposed to freezing temperatures all night before he was found. He died 6 days later, still technically a prisoner of war, and was buried at Fort Sill, where he remains to this
For
day.
FPS, especially, wait, is there people there or 2 people? There are 2 people hunting now. I guess people are joining from the arcade tab too. I don't have a desire to draw people in right now. I just want to hunt this and get this gold.
American military tradition of appropriating native culture and language. They started giving themselves mohawk haircuts a few years later. I realize that sounds like a really lame origin story, but that's usually how it works.
Oh, that's where we were.
It inspires the military much more often than the other way around. My platoon in Iraq was named the Jokers because The Dark Knight just came out. Yelling Geronimo's name as an exclamation was spread to the civilian population when movies about World War II started coming out.
One that said me was supposed to be Geronimo, you know.
The raid that killed Osama bin Laden in 2011 was called Operation Geronimo, which brought the debate over the use of his name back to the surface. But among those who defend his name and legacy, you won't find very many Chiricahua Apache. Because of his repeated raids and escapes, his entire band was collectively punished and never allowed to return home. They blame him for their troubles and do not see him as a hero. They were held as prisoners of war until 1913, when the 261 remaining Chiricahua Apache were finally set free. They were the last American Indians to be relocated to Oklahoma, and they were eventually recognized as the Fort Sill Apache tribe. They currently have 650 enrolled members. This video is a special
No, dude, that was it.
to my larger video on Indian movement. Make sure to check it out if you haven't already. If you'd like to become an enrolled member of the Knowing Better band, head on over to patreon.com/knowingbetter, or for a one-time donation, paypal.me/knowingbetter. Don't forget to colonize that subscribe button or the join button if you want to fully assimilate. Check out the merch at knowingbetter.tv, follow me on Twitter, Facebook, and Instagram, and join us on the subreddit.
4815. Okay, 4815's promising. 4815's makes it sound possible again. We'll do a couple rounds without the video. Or maybe we won't. Maybe we'll just do it one more time. I don't know though. It's a good chance that I'm gonna get heavily copyright strike. Just wait, what's this one? History explained? Some of it's music. There's a lot of music called Geronimo, and then there's life story. This is 18-minute one. All right, we're gonna keep digging through it. Like,
The life of Geronimo.
there's a lot of stories about this dude.
Geronimo's band traveled into Old Mexico, where they could trade because a peace treaty was established. Camping outside a Mexican town, they stayed for several days, leaving a few warriors to guard the camp. The rest of the men went into town to trade.
I mean, he is
When they
like
were returning, they were met by several women and children.
the Indian Billy the Kid or something, like the American Indian Billy the Kid, the Native American Indian. Like, it's crazy even calling them Indians, just because one dude made a mistake once. But whatever.
Many of the women and children had been killed as well. Of those that lay dead were Geronimo's wife, mother, and 3 children. As a result, he hated Mexicans for the rest of his life. The Mexican Colonel Carrasco claimed
Point
this was a
7.
revenge
Oh, this.
attack
You know what? This is
on
server
Mexican
nonsense.
earlier. While
So I keep seeing server splits and it's driving me crazy. I don't want to see. Oh, it doesn't matter. It splits. It just splits. I don't care about splits. It's about to go. It's just
where he
run.
claimed he heard a voice that told him, "No gun will ever kill you. I will take the bullets from the guns, and I will guide your arrows." Geronimo gathered a war party, and the Apaches marched to Mexico, where 8 companies of Mexican infantry met to fight. When Geronimo saw that some of these soldiers were from the same company that participated in the massacre of his family, he got even more angry. Geronimo, being the one who had suffered the greatest loss in the massacre, was chosen to lead the Apache into battle. With Geronimo leading, the Apaches charged at an entire company of riflemen. Ignoring the bullets flying around his head and charging Mexican ranks armed only with a hunting knife, he began slashing his enemy. They screamed and prayed to St. Jerome to save them. He later took the death cries of his enemies as his new name. The legend of Geronimo was born.
It's
The life of Geronimo.
took the death cries of his enemy that were screaming to Saint Jerome in Spanish. So that's how he got his name, Geronimo. Wow.
His birth
You
name
can do
was
those in the
Geronimo,
contacts app.
or one who yarns. He was part of the Bedonkohe subsection, a
Bedonkohe?
small but mighty group. They were part of the Chiricahua band of Apaches. Geronimo had 3 brothers and 4 sisters. As a young boy, he learned to farm crops of corn, beans, squash, and peppers in the fertile, well-watered country.
Yes.
But early on, his fellow Bedonkohes recognized that he had a gift for seeing into the future in order to interpret the present, and he was trained as a shaman, learning holy songs and prayers. By his coming of age, he showed talent for hunting, and in 1846, at 17, he was admitted to the Council of Warriors, which also allowed him to marry.
What I've seen usually react to a turn while you're already in the turn. I understand it's hard because everything comes quick, especially looking ahead rather than your own car, yeah. I'm terrible so far. We're looking ahead on tech for sure, yeah. Very true. I need to start doing that better.
Fell in love with a woman named Alope. The 2 married and had 3 children together. In the 1850s, the band traveled into Old Mexico, where they could trade because of a peace treaty. Near Casquille in Chihuahua, Mexicans attacked the Apache camp while most of the men were in town and killed most of the ones they found in camp. Geronimo's whole family was killed. After that, he mourned according to Apache tradition. While mourning, he heard a voice telling him no gun will ever kill him. Encouraged by this, he put on war paint and gathered warriors from his and other bands. The Apaches went on the warpath. This included Geronimo's Bedonkohe Apaches, led by Chief Mangus Colorado, the Choconin Apaches by Chief Cochise, and the Nedni Apaches by Chief Hoop. They crossed around 45 miles a day, stopping only to sleep and hunt. Reaching the settlement of Arispe, the Mexicans sent 8 companies of infantry. The Apaches won the battle, also thanks to the leadership and bravery of Geronimo. Others saw Geronimo leading the charge only with a knife in his hands, and after the battle, they asked him to be the war leader of their people. In the next months, he led 2 raids on the Mexican frontier. Coming back from the second raid, they saw Mexican soldiers.
How am I still holding most of my speed?
Followed them. The soldiers then proceeded to attack an Apache settlement. Their fight lasted a whole day. At the end, the soldiers decided to retreat. 8 Mexicans and 5 Apaches were killed. About the same time, the Apaches and Geronimo encountered white settlers for the first time. The 2 groups couldn't speak, but communicated with gestures, befriending each other. Apaches camped near the settlers who were measuring land. They traded, and the settlers gave the Apaches money. They didn't understand the value of this money, but later found out from the Navajos it was very valuable. Geronimo said these were good men, and they were sad to see them go when they rode out west. Geronimo dedicated his life to battling his enemies. He led many war parties and raids into Mexican territory. These small assault teams, usually ranging between 5 and 30 warriors, killed soldiers wherever they could find them, and pillaged border settlements and supply trains for weapons, guns.
I don't like seeing a bunch of chats spewed at me when I'm just trying to hunt in the middle of the night.
Wounded many times in battle, Geronimo taught his fellow warriors tactics of invisibility, slipping away into rocky canyons and mountains when pursued, striking quickly and from a long distance. In an event that is now known as the Bascom Affair, in February of 1861...
You have comms about how to drive faster? Cool, otherwise, no thanks, dude. I'm good. I don't need advice on whether or not to look at my ghost, or whether or not to look at my slips, or whether or not to look at you. Typing about that. The only advice I would like is how to get the gold medal here. If you can see something, that's appreciated. I'm fine with distractions as far as that goes. Or I would just not be on stream.
This started a 25-year period of bloody hostilities between the Chiricahua Apaches and the United States, and a personal 10-year war between Cochise and the U.S. Army. After this event, the native tribes of the area...
I'm gonna take a break soon now. Probably smoke. Maybe switch the game even for a bit. Play some PUBG for about an hour until everybody leaves, then come back on and hunt.
The army attacked the Apaches. In
Who knows? Do whatever. I'm just not gonna do the whole change what you're doing. Maybe that'll do it. If you have something good, tell me about how, like a line you can tell me that to help me achieve this. Cool. Everything else is nonsense.
Went to make a peace treaty with the American settlers. He was promised blankets, flour, beef, and all manner of supplies in return for peace and living near the fort in Apache Cable. Traveling with 3 of his warriors, he arrived under a flag of truce, but sensing a trap, sent them back to camp and entered the American camp alone. He was later killed. The Apaches broke camp and retreated while being attacked several times by U.S. troops. When they found out that Mangus Colorado had been killed, Geronimo was chosen as the new chief. At the time, the situation was bad because of U.S. Army attacks and lack of supplies, so they traveled to join Chief Victorio's chief of Apaches in Hot Springs, New Mexico. Geronimo later recalled in his autobiography that he doesn't think they ever spent a more pleasant time than upon this occasion. The 2 bands remained very close. In 1864, they returned home. The Apaches provided for the safety of their families before starting raids. Their whole tribe would scatter and then reassemble at a camp about 40 to 50 miles from the former place. In this way, it would be hard for the Mexicans to trail them, and the warriors would know where to find the families when they returned. Moreover, if any hostile native tribe should see a large number of warriors leaving, they might attack the camp, but if they found no one, their raid would fail. In the next 4 years, Geronimo led 4 raids into Mexico, mostly successful, taking goods and horses and killing enemies. Those who followed Geronimo credited him with a variety of supernatural powers, including the ability to heal the sick, slow time, avoid bullets, bring on rainstorms, and even witness events over great distances. One situation, described by Apache Jason Bencinas, a few warriors were sitting around a campfire during a raiding expedition when Geronimo suddenly had a vision that U.S. troops had attacked their base camp. After arriving at the site several days later, they found that Geronimo's vision had been correct. The Americans had already captured the encampment.
I want to see lines I can turn on the world record. I wouldn't come spectate you. Who are you?
But I was there, and I saw it. In 1872, Mexican troops attacked the Apache settlement, but the Apaches defeated them.
I could easily just turn on Feather on Spotify or, you
A year
know,
later, the band joined the Ned Neo.
Pyro Sphinx
Leader was Chief Hu in the Sierra Madre.
record for my club.
There, they had a fight with the Mexicans.
I'm sure they have
About
AT.
60 Apaches faced 2 companies of Mexican cavalry and were victorious, killing all of them.
I didn't ask to see lions, did I?
Doncahe Apaches would live sometime
If I asked to see lions, that'd be cool.
Mexico, where they
I didn't say I
would
want to see
defeat the
lions.
Apaches. The leaders of the bands were close friends. Another 2 battles with the Mexicans occurred in the
You didn't tell me any advice. You didn't try to give me any advice. You tried me to come spectate you. That's the opposite of advice.
In the other fight, they were forced to retreat into the mountains. After
How about
months
just
of
go away?
skirmishes in the
Nobody
mountains,
needs you here.
Apaches and Mexicans decided on a peace treaty at Casas Grandes, Chihuahua, Mexico. After terms were agreed, the trading of goods began, and the Mexicans gave mezcal to the Apaches. While they were intoxicated, they attacked and killed 20 Apaches and captured many. The Apaches were forced to retreat into the mountains.
It's just a self-important YouTube
After the treachery,
chatter.
chiefs
As most are on that side.
Chiricahua
Peace out.
Apaches met with
Don't get
U.S. General
banned.
Oliver Howard in an attempt to make peace. General Howard agreed to make Chiricahua's homeland as their reservation. The agency was established near Fort Bowie, and the Chiricahua Apaches entered a period of peace in the San Carlos Reservation. Geronimo remembered General Howard with affection, saying that all the natives respected him because he was always fair and his purpose was always to maintain peace. On the reservation, Apaches got a good amount of food and supplies. Unfortunately,
I'm gonna smoke.
General Howard was soon transferred, and troubles on the reservation started. Geronimo and the Bedonkohe band moved to
And listen to the Bedonkohe
on
band.
Ojo Caliente Reservation.
I don't give a
and
fuck about
joined
you, bro.
Victorio's band
But
of
really.
Cheyenne Apaches. This
Absolutely.
was seen as an
Bye.
infraction by
Till
the
next time.
Americans.
Bye-bye.
U.S. officials arrested Victorio, Geronimo, and 7 other Apaches. Victorio was released, but Geronimo was imprisoned for 4 months because of leaving the San Carlos Reservation. Eventually, Geronimo and his band were pushed back to the San Carlos Reservation. The Ojo Caliente Reservation was then closed, and Victorio and his band were ordered to move to the San Carlos Reservation, which they refused, escaping into the night. The army was ordered to kill any
I
Apache
can't use
found outside
F5 as a
the
hotkey. I need to change that on my OBS.
Cheyenne Apaches were pursued across the southwest and
This
into
is the
Mexico,
reload. So
fighting furiously the whole time.
yeah, reload
They numbered
hotkey
around
for
200 people and led more than 20
servers.
skirmishes. Eventually, they were killed by
settings.
Mexican soldiers. Victorio was said to
Hotkeys.
be the last one standing. In 1883, spurred by Geronimo, hundreds of Apaches left the
The
reservation and
F5
started
will have to
traveling
be.
south. Many great
I
warriors
guess we'll do
joined,
F. We have
settling in the mountain
F3,
ranges of Mexico,
F4.
and
So do
having
F2,
skirmishes
F3,
with the
F4.
U.S. Army on the way. The Chiricahua at this point numbered around 600.
F2 can be the
They
main
would
one
find
then.
caches of food and
that
supplies
makes sense.
all around the southwest and parts of Mexico. The U.S. Army was also chasing the
Yeah.
Apaches, so Americans and Mexicans made a deal to freely cross the border in order to defeat the natives. A furious battle.
He's
took
just
place
just
south
being a
of
dick.
Alaska.
I'll listen to anyone that
The
has
Mexican
advice.
army
No problem
attacked
taking advice from
Apaches in the
people.
mountains. The battle lasted from
That guy's just being, just wants his show on. He wants to be part of the show. He wants to be on the show. He wants to be the show. He wants me to go watch him play instead of play. And that's not what we're doing. And I'm not having that argument.
And from then on,
I just-
the Apaches were encouraged, and the Mexicans
I didn't ask for advice at all.
When dark fell, the
I'm just playing my
Apaches
game.
set fire and escaped.
No one asked him for anything.
Was sent by the U.S. best deal with the Apaches. The natives respected him, and he respected them. He was heard saying the U.S. Army has the tiger of the human species before them, referring to the Apaches. General Crook was able to track Geronimo, and realizing he was at a huge numerical disadvantage,
I've gotten like within 0.2 on a copium timer, and I know I have the lines to be okay, to do fine on this. I have no problems with banning that guy and just never talking to him again. He's just a dick. I don't even care about it. If he wants to come back and be a different person next time, then cool. But otherwise, no qualms at all. Just never. I'll just not ever talk to him again. No worries. But anyway, if you're talking to me, let him grind it out. Yeah, he will figure it out by making mistakes. Eventually,
$25,000 bounty was placed on Geronimo's head. Fear gripped the Southwest during the final summer of Chiricahua Apache freedom in 1886. The final free band numbered only 37.
But I do mean to smoke though, so I'm gonna do that too. I'd probably turn off the Geronimo gangster stories because, you know, it's not normally what we do around now.
While around 5,000 soldiers of the U.S. Army,
it's not quite the vibe. It's generally,
and fewer than 1,000 volunteers
it's generally held.
trying to subdue them. After General Nelson Miles replaced Crook, he
Literally, only one person in my club has AT in this. Wow. I'm surprised, honestly, there. But plenty of people have gold. Plenty of the people have it. That's all I want to. I've been here with Y2 and all them earlier. Like, I'm okay with the lights. I need to figure out the ending line a little bit faster than I have it. My copium times are within 0.3. I'm like, I have most of it there. It's just like getting the line to work. And that's so I'm on just for a little late honey. And part of this is to learn tech. So I will learn anything I can learn, but I'm not gonna like listen to a dude just badmouth me and talk like nonsense and bullshit because it's there. Wanting to shine, wanting to be part of the stream, and it's fine. If he's not going to get his shine, then he's going to be a dick. That's just how people are. Unfortunate sometimes, but meet people where they're at. So I can be a dick back. So 47.97 and a gold medal. That's all I needed. So that's with 2 respawns only. I do that once with no response. We're good. So we're good to go. And I guess that's a clip. So that's what's up as well. Maybe I can get that one out there for him to see tomorrow. If he's already subscribed on YouTube or whatever. I don't even know what Slim 994 is, but you know, well, anyone that says you're miserable, it's funny, and like tries to laugh at people being upset or angry is a dick and just needs to go away. And I don't give a shit. That's my opinion. I'm sticking to it. You can still watch, you know, you can watch from the distance. You can hate watch all you want. Just know you're a dick. Yeah, be nice to people. I have hit that cooking goal. Alright, I'll be right back. I need to go upstairs, grab some fresh supplies. Party supplies, we'll call it. Continue this party. I do completely move my mouse. Oh look, the people being banned as I don't have to not to be here. People just getting banned on the humble while I'm just stepping away for a second. Your turn now, let's see it. Little brother says Slim 1990. Little attitude adjustment. BRB. Oh wait, how did I do this now? I have it on F4. Is there? F3. Is this? F2. So F2 is normal, F3 is big, and F4 is slash. Yeah. It's weird that that's in the middle, but it's fine. Try that for a while. I gotta label it or something. I'll figure this out. I'll like color code a couple buttons, hotkeys, and figure out what are good hotkeys to label things as. Because function keys are usually hotkeys for other things, but sometimes they are anyway. Alright. Cash as it is. Wait, it's not F3. It has to be though. Yeah, it's the big one. No, it's not. It's F2, okay. It's gotta be. That's so weird. I have to fix that. That's like the last. I didn't like this ending at all, so it was gonna be tough at all. Yeah, I'm just gonna start fresh. How far away from something? Well, let's check that after. Okay. It's up 38% on word wall. Not too shabby. It's really just this that we need to watch, right? I'll leave this up. Fuck. Ah, it's so close. I knew it was gonna be. I knew it wasn't gonna go there. I just had a feeling. Sorry, that was the natural reaction there, but it's so close. And there's no other like. This is the Geronimo. 4835. And I have seen the 47 already. Right. Alright. No. That was about the run it needed to be. But the start it needed to be on the run. Oh, it's not gonna make it. It did make it. It does not go by 0.8, but big PP. Accept that for a minute. Come back and get gold and another minute. Oh, wrong screen? Are you kidding? How long is that right there? Alright, I gotta fix my hotkeys. The F. What is that? Okay, F4, F3. F3 is a thing, so you can't do F3. Holy shit! All right, I have to no functional hotkeys then. No function hotkeys. What are hotkeys gonna be? I guess it's the G buttons then. I'm never using 1s and 2s and 3s and 4s and stuff. On in general, just right. At least not 6s through, because those aren't. Yeah, let's just try that for a minute. We'll try these as 6s. Yeah, so Cam++ is going to be game only is there. Cam game. Wait, what? Oh, what is happening? Wait, hold on. Well, settings. Hotkeys. Sorry guys, I gotta take this. I gotta do this set up stuff at night. I'm never gonna do this during the daytime stream anyway, so I gotta get it done at some point. Switch to scene is it's just scene cam big plus big scene is F. Let's do this one. Can I just delete it? Why is it F2 now? These are functions? Why the I didn't know what okay. Okay. Maybe these are functions the whole time. We'll just say they are. Sure. They can't be those. So we're gonna use F 7, 8, 9, 10, for lack of a better plan. 7 is Big Pam. 8 is Cam and Game. Nope, 8 just gotta. So is that what you can tell? F8. Oh, F8 is. Oh. Okay, what's my screen? Okay. Okay. Cam and Game. Then will be splash screen. I see now what's going on. Whoa, this is so crazy. Alright, so filter F. Can I put F in front of it? No. No. Alright, screw it. Just do this. This is working fine. F7, F8. No, this is F3 right now. Game only will be F9, and then F8, and then F10. Is that one, right? Yes. Let's try that for. I don't think F10 is anything wrong anywhere else. Testing. F10, F9. F8 and Big Cam. I'm fine, and nothing went haywire on Twitch. Alright, I'm gonna grab Jake, and we're gonna come back in and get the rest of this done. Be right back. Just 8 and 9. On and off. Unfortunately, then 7's the big one and scared browsing? Come on. Don't ask me again. And then, so yeah, F7's fine. Don't ask me again. You can navigate to pages with text cursor. I don't know about F7. We'll figure that out later. We don't need the F7 anyway, so at least that's the end. At least these two are on and off. That's what's up. Let's go. We in business. Let me get the microphone set back up too. My microphone's been all off kilter a little bit. It's better. Candace faced the wrong way. Everything's all disheveled. No wonder I haven't gotten to gold medal yet. Alright. Focus up. It's time to get done. Oh, one more thing. I need some FPSs, please. Thank you. Nine slower in that far back? It doesn't feel like something I want to do. I don't think those are helping either. Fishers, sure, should best in the fronts. Okay, shit. We just want to be the start of the show. No. Oh, so good. It's so good. I was 0.5 and speed ahead. Ready to rock that turn, maybe? Oh. It seems like I'm just bad at tech. I've done that for a while, I guess, but Geronimo! You beat. Again. Let's go. Still a little bit away. 0.7, let's go. Get up. A full second he was trying to tell me to take that. That's way better. That's when I should have stopped listening. I should have known it was Clueless as soon as you told me that. All right. I did get the PBs. Even if I gotta come back and hunt this one tomorrow, which I hate to do, but I will do if I have to. I can go in knowing that I did get some things accomplished in this session. That's good. But this session is what, 26 minutes? Oh wow, that's nothing. $26 minutes, 2 PBs. I'm already not clean enough to make this it would be a city, but that's not worth it. Let's maximize space, minimize time. Sounds like a plan. That would have been a good time to get a PPA, but touch, but not a bad one. Not bad. 23 is about. Like, you get off even a little bit off this line, it's not even worth continuing. There's no readjusting. You just have to start over. At least I do. That's what tech is to me. It's like almost like full speed, but not even fast. It's just annoying. I know, I see the lines, and like that's why like tech people, tech backseater people that aren't even like normal friends or whatever, tech backseaters are just the most annoying. Because they're like, oh, look how fast I can be. Okay, thanks. He just gave absolutely no advice. The one advice he gave me is just to jump straight towards the finish. Just jump straight. Jump straighter. And that was good. That was probably good advice. The rest of it's like, waste my time, waste my time, waste my time, paragraph, essaying, watch my run, come look at me, this is what I'm doing, I'm in the room, I got faster than you. Come watch my run, come watch my run, essaying. Turn off ghosts, turn on names, look at me, watch my run. Fuck off. TM. It's something that you're not good at. To bother somebody that's like, I don't know, your age. They probably want to hear all about it. Blah. Ooh, that was interesting line. I almost had like a weird inside line there, but it just went diagonal on me. Like, meanwhile, like we don't all have the exact same map right in front of us. That's the first time I've seen the GPS. I need to see the direct line of the finish. Still don't love it. I'm not hitting my horn nearly enough like the GPS was. Side bogeys, even if I made it, I'm way too far back. I never know which is which anymore. Alright, this is off, this is on. Yeah. So the light is light. Okay, that makes good sense. I can go that way. Easy, easy, easy. Mm-hmm. No. How was I too inside for once? Ah. And the clip almost worked there, but that's too inside if you go there. Wow. It's whatever. Damn it. I know it was gonna land smooth enough though, I didn't have the speed. Yeah. Yeah, it just isn't in there speed wise. And there's absolutely never a reason to go insane. That's just ridiculous. Sounds like some giver up, some quitting nonsense to me. Somebody got close to AT and just decided to go tell other people to give up on their dreams. Why? I set a good distance to go, but why'd I have to crash that? Nothing unless I drift there, there's nothing. You can't. Nothing you can do. I don't know. Oh man. Getting tired. Getting sleepy. Might actually go to bed soon. Lag says maybe that's a good idea. What time is it? 5:16? That was a couple of days server ending. No. Oh, okay. What's this gonna do? That's way too fast. It's just it's the same track for so long, but still memorizing it's a problem right now. I'm autopiloting it, and I can't memorize. I don't remember the track. It's a combination of two things, so. Hmm. Is it right? Yes. Yeah, that one. Yeah. I just gotta check now. For a little while until I know it's right, but I know what I know. Alright, let's get this done. Oh, whatever. That was such a good line. I mean, it's like a perfect, like, nose slide down through here. But it was like a really good, I don't know what you call it. Maybe that's a quantum slide, or I don't know. It felt amazing. But also, it didn't work because I crashed, but it was super fast. Had skids, but didn't feel like I was sliding. I mean, I just described what a quantum slide is, I think, but I just don't know that that's what happened. Damn it. It's going to be very fast. So just run it. Get a good ending. Practice. But next time when it is very fast. It's just that stupid ending, dude. It's just never really gonna. But the aim is right, so it's like I really just still went aiming platform for a while. It's no good. I can't bank on platform, dude. Oh. No, come on. As after, of course, the respawns after the pop. There's nothing I can do. It's so. That's alright. It's like we're not always gonna be there. That was another one that was gonna be there. We just got good now. Just gotta get it. Matter of times. And do it enough times, we're gonna get the times we need. Just a matter of times. No! I knew that was hilly. Just too wide. You can't jump down there that wide. We changing lines up in the middle of the last bit of the gold hunt, alright? And just start calling these full focus night mode hunts and just not respond to chat. It's never been a positive. Almost never been. Well, except earlier on when we had the and of course Black Card Ceiling came through. That's what's up to. But earlier on we had the Dust Gaming come through with the subs. 5-month sub. That was supremely welcome. Bubble coming in to say hi for 5 seconds in the same map and then ask me to play something else, sort of indirectly. But then yeah, after that it's just been unsolicited, unwanted, bad vibes. And one guy saying, don't you just let him do what he wants, and like he doesn't get the chance to let me do anything. I'm gonna do what I want regardless. That dude he gets the option to let himself keep talking or not. He chose not. That's all he has control over though. Oh damn, that would have been a good time to end in the PB. Flop. I mean, it's always a good time to end in PB, but Some could have been especially juicy. I'll think about it to train that and jump then, just to be safe. Or do I have the speed? Let's see, after the drift, we're going about 160. Or 360. What am I doing? That's too hard at this point. Start over. I can never take it from that angle. Like, it's not gonna work. Like from that respawn, just. Dropped a bunch of time there. No, that was the cleanest I've had, and I know I messed up a lot early on. I mean, that might have been made a clean run through the ending. Let's try it. Yeah. 48.99. Not at all, baby. Here. Back at it again. I got the bottle of the water, but I did get a drink while I was out there. Alright. Download required. It's so late though. 2 seconds later and I can hit the risky? It doesn't even matter that. Like, that part's not even the issue. I gotta save a whole bunch at the beginning. We've known that. We've known I've had that. That's not it. No, that's my point. What I can do is I can put ghost on too. We've always never been a mystery. Same dude that was just telling me to like, you know, turn everything off was like, you know, watch my ghost. We'll just hold on. We'll just put a fucking hijack. Or get involved, whatever. But they just went about the wrong way. For my street, at least, he definitely went about the wrong way. I'm sure Scrappy would have pulled his ghost right up and just started watching him play, you know? And immediately taking all of his advice and tried it all. Step by step. Sounded all very sound. So, like, be faster, do what I do. Look at me do it. I'd rather listen to Geronimo stories. All these ghosts for like hours earlier too. I'm pretty sure. I don't think it's not. It doesn't matter. It doesn't help. I know what the lines a bit like faster of lines are. I can't say the lines, but I know some lines that'll get me gold. I've definitely got it gold. I just gotta get there. And I'm exhausted. I'm not feeling it. Might not be happening tonight. At least maybe not on stream. Then I feel obligated to talk, and I don't even feel like talking. So I might just turn mic off. Cam's already been off, but until I get this, it's more just about having a clip, because I have one for every other day this month. So I have it back on, you know, late night tonight to try it. Never normally am I own around this time though, otherwise I would be sound asleep about now. Sleeping, getting ready for the company tomorrow. Oh, what should I still do? And come back and hunt this after, you know, at some point tomorrow night or whatever the hell I feel like it, honestly. But I'd like to get it done before then, but who knows? Who cares really? Like, it's definitely not worth missing sleep on, because I'm gonna be a trackmania. Hit me up late, and trackmania woke me up before I was ready. That's never a good mood for the trackmania stream in the morning. Alright. Like, oh, sorry I'm so cranky playing trackmania right now, everybody, because I was up too late playing trackmania last night. You know, it just means like, pick a team. I do have a cool video to play for the stream tomorrow. It'll be a 4-minute video about Geronimo. And how, in the end, he didn't give up, but he did stop trying what he was trying. for the benefit of his people. They wouldn't have to suffer any longer. And I mean, that's kind of like the same thing that's gonna happen here. If I don't make it tonight, you'll be hearing that video before it's over. 5 minutes of that. Because at the end game. That's the video I listened to, and the reason I started to stream. This is the only version that seemed to be worth it. Content was abound. And then content got spoiled by I got one guide. What's some dude I don't even know too. Like not even somebody that's like part of the community. But bad mood never stopped me from getting gold before. More headache. Or one guy. Or difficult time. I wanted that speed so badly, that turn. Also, I mean, there's a couple different spots, like, so many different spots I can get speed here, honestly. But then, so many ways to lose it all back, too. No, this is definitely gonna be good, right? Let's see about this cold copium tolerant, possibly. What? Easy? Yeah, thanks, dude. This is actually the hardest gold I've had this month besides the PM Games map. But get banned if you like as well. I have no problem banning people for negative nonsense. Like, if you have help, offer it. Otherwise, shut the fuck up or get out of my chat. You obviously can see my total time. You can tell exactly how long I've grinded on the map. I've been here 1 hour in this session. It's not easy. It's tech. It's the only one I don't have this month. If it was easy, I'd have it. I'll tell you what I'm gonna do is shake and bake.